Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. It is 11th of December. Now it's 2 p.m. Moscow time, middle of the day, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments. Lot to unpack, really, lot to discuss. Although before I start, dear friends, let me explain. It will take maybe a minute. Let me explain what was going on in past 2 weeks that. Due to which I was unable to maintain certain timing for my live streams. This information might be interesting for the community, and who knows, maybe even useful, especially for ones that are planning to come to Moscow or maybe migrate to Russia. And so what happened is that about 2 weeks ago, last week, previous week, my younger daughter experienced some medical trouble. She got cold, and it has become necessary to go to doctors, and doctor recommended to go to hospital. So she was hospitalized last week. Doctors there made checkup, and they decided that some surgery was necessary, and they did this surgery about 5 days ago now. Everything went good. Doctors are professionals, so they did the work. Then rehabilitation took place for several days, and yesterday doctors allowed her to leave the hospital to come home, and that's why yesterday I was unable to make her update her in the hospital, of course, to bring my daughter home. So that's their situation. By the way, I mentioned earlier to explain this some disturbances in the schedule, that there was some medical issue that one of the family members were experiencing, and that's what was happening. Of course, for any parents, it's a terrifying. By the way, it's horrifying when one of your kids don't feel good. It's a horrifying experience, but everything went well. She is at home now and feels great. Everything is good. Of course, rehabilitation will still take a couple of several more days. Some medicines need to be used for a couple of days still, but everything is fine now. So that was the reasoning, by the way. That was the reasoning, that I was unable to follow my usual schedule past week and this week. But hopefully from next week I'll be able to go back to my usual graphic. I will do live streams at same time every day. I'll try my best, and I will do some extra content for our Patreon and boosting communities, of course. So I'll try my best. And well, probably you are interested if this medical support cost anything, and it did not, by the way. That's why I'm sharing a little more details, because some of the members of our community maybe are planning to come to Russia, and this kind of information may come handy. Here in Russia, there is, of course, paid or commercial medical institutions, and there are state medical institutions. And when you go to state medical institutions, everything that doctors do there is free. Surgeries, treatment, everything. So it costs us not a single penny. That's how it works. We pay our taxes, and if there is some emergency situation, then, well, you will get services that you need free. That's how it works here, by the way. In US, I will probably go bankrupt, because I know many stories that people in US literally are going bankrupt once they are forced to go to doctors. That's how crazy expensive things are there. But in Russia, system is operating differently. So yeah, our tax money is serving our interests. Mostly. Obviously, there may be some questions how are tax money being used there in certain fields, but generally speaking, that's how it is. This surgery and medical treatment cost us literally nothing. So that's that. Now, when I explained the situation, let's start the new segment itself. By the way, and so, as I said, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments. Dear friends, let me drop Rumble a link in the YouTube chat now. Let me drop this in the chat, and if it's convenient for you, please continue to watch my live stream, this video on Rumble channel of mine. That might be helpful very much to further develop Rumble. After all, I can be kicked out of YouTube at any time, literally any day, right? So we will have other means to stay in touch, and Rumble is one of those ways, of course, together with my Telegram channel and Twitter X page. And okay, dear friends, so that's been said. Let's start the news segment itself. Of course, after news segment, if there will be any questions through Super Chat on Rumble or through other support platforms, Boosty, PayPal, I will try to react on it best way I can. And so, okay, time for news segment, and let's start with this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on Russian Defense Ministry's update that past night, Kiev regime, with assistance of NATO, launched one of the biggest strikes on Russian Federation, drone strikes on Russian Federation, and the air defense systems on duty intercepted 287 drones. 287 drones, by the way, were intercepted. Massive strike deep into Russian territory. Let me give you some details on that. So air defense forces shut down 287 Ukrainian drones over the Russian regions overnight, Defense Ministry reported. Between 11 p.m. on December 10th and 7 a.m. on December 11th, air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 287 Ukrainian fixed-winged unmanned aerial vehicles. Ministry said obviously these are NATO drones. These are not really Ukrainian drones. These are NATO drones that are launched by NATO personnel to strike deep into Russian territory. These drones are built by NATO countries. Flight path targeting data intelligence for these drone operations are provided by NATO countries. So how these strikes are Ukrainian strikes is anybody's guess, right? This is a NATO strikes on Russia. Let's say it as it is, right? And NATO is using Kiev regime as their proxy. They are using name of the Kiev regime basically to maintain plausible deniability. That's all it is, really. Russian militaries destroyed 118 drones over the Bryansk region, 40 each in the Kaluga and the Moscow regions. All Moscow airports, by the way, due to this attack on Moscow capital's direction, all Moscow airports, Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, Vnukovo, and Zhukovsky imposed the restrictions on aircraft arrival and dispatcher. Dozens of planes were diverted to alternative airfields due to these attacks. It is specified by Ministry of Defense that another 27 NATO drones were shut down in the Tula region, 19 in Novgorod region, 11 in Yaroslav region, and 10 in the Lipetsk region. 6 drones were destroyed over the Smolensk region, 5 each over the Kursk and Oryol region, 4 over the Voronezh region, and 2 over the Ryazan region, the ministry added. And I mentioned that there was quite a number of drones that was launched in direction of Moscow, and this morning we have this update on this matter. TASS news agency is reporting that air defense forces have shot down 41 drones approaching Moscow since the start of the day, since 12 a.m. Last night. Already 41 drones were intercepted that were approaching on their approach to Russian capital, to Moscow. And as I mentioned, there are airports, Moscow airports that are servicing Moscow, diverted dozens of flights to reserve airfields. And on one of the planes that was diverted to other direction towards St. Petersburg, in this particular case, was Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan. He was traveling to Moscow, and well, he could not land to this terrorist attack of NATO on the Russian capital. I guess by now he's playing probably a liftoff from St. Petersburg and arrived here in Moscow, most likely. But in the morning there was a different situation. As I said, large scale terrorist attack of NATO against Russia. NATO and their proxy regime, let's say this way. And not surprisingly, by the way, during this large-scale terrorist attack of NATO on the Russian Federation, U.S. RQ-4B Global Hawk drone were flying on the NATO's eastern border for over 10 hours. And I mean, you tell me if this was a random stuff, if this U.S. drone was randomly flying there without providing assistance to NATO militaries to conduct this large-scale attack on the Russian Federation. I think this drone was participating. This American drone was participating in this attack on the Russian Federation while providing targeting data and all the other information, intelligence, and so on, which clearly indicates that all this bullshit talk from Washington, from Trump and his inner circle, his administration, that they are all for the escalation is just that bullshit, right? No one should take it seriously, by the way. US was, and still will be a main force in this proxy war against Russia that collective West has launched, right? If anybody thinks that U.S. administration is genuine when they are talking about de-escalating with Moscow, I don't know, man. It's just mistaken. Let's put it mildly. There's ever Washington to be trusted, by the way, by anybody. And same can be said about all the other Western capitals, period. And when it comes to terrorist activity of NATO, by the way, NATO member states and their proxy regime, we have report that another tanker was targeted in the Black Sea with maritime drones. I can show you some video of this terrorist attacker. Well, I said in my previous updates, isn't it, that as Western elites, as Western ruling class is becoming more and more desperate, they will further intensify their terror campaign against Russia. And that's exactly what is happening. They are intensifying significantly their terror campaign against Russian civilians, against Russian state, against Russian interests, right? Economical and so on. And this is the video, by the way, of this terrorist attacker on yet another tanker, oil tanker in sea. Drones approached her, maritime drones, swarm of maritime drones approached this tanker that was navigating on the northern part of Black Sea. And well, you can see these attacks. I wonder if any environmentalist, so-called environmentalist in the Western world, will say a single word about this. At this point, regular attacks on tankers that are directly or indirectly related, allegedly, to Russian energy sector. Will anybody say anything in the West that this is unacceptable and this is crazy to target tankers out in the open of the sea? None of them gonna say nothing, man, because they all are fake. All these Greens and environmentalists that whine about climate change and all the other stuff, all of them are fake, by the way. In reality, they care about nothing. So lately, in past several weeks, we already received information about 4 tankers being attacked. 4 tankers, 3 in the Black Sea, and another tanker is maybe still thinking, or maybe already sunk off coast of Senegal, Africa. Allegedly, that tanker was also related to Russian energy sector, maybe. Although what we know for sure is that that tanker that is sinking or maybe sunk already off coast of Senegal was belonging to a Turkish company, and there are 3 tankers that were attacked from these 3 tankers that were attacked in the Black Sea. None of them were belonging to Russian company, Russian registered company at least, and the 2 of them were destroyed or attacked in Turkish waters. And obviously, we all know, dear friends, that this terrorist activity of former key regime is orchestrated by London, especially in the Black Sea area, especially in the southern sectors. It's always United Kingdom, by the way, British intelligence services, British militaries that are orchestrating and leading this terrorist activity in the southern sectors, in the Black Sea and the southern sectors in general, right? So it's a direct attack of UK on Russia, and in case of tankers on Turkey also, because yet again, 1 tanker was belonging to a Turkish company and 2 tankers were struck in the Turkish waters. Formally, last time I checked, Turkey and the UK were allies, or supposed to be allies, right? Both are NATO member states, and Turkey did not really make much noise because, as I said many times before, Turkish political class is a British proxy, historically speaking, right? This is not something new. This goes back to centuries, actually, of relationship between Turkey and UK, since even Ottoman Empire times, by the way, right? Sometimes they were fighting each other, but generally speaking, Turkish political class was always acting in last century or 2 as a British proxy, and they continue to do so, and that's why Ankara is really. There were some condemnations of these attacks, but not much really was either said or done. Just simple condemnation, not to make London too angry on Ankara. And that's it, right? You might wonder, dear friends, about oil spill as a result of these attacks, and for now we don't really have much information. We don't really have much information about these consequences for ecology as a result of these attacks, but they're gonna be consequences, right? Obviously they're gonna be consequences when tankers are attacked in an open sea. By the way, what else you expect, isn't it? Okay, that's been said, let's continue with some other news now. And we have major developments on the battlefield, isn't it? We have major developments on the battlefield, dear friends. According to several sources, Russian militaries have liberated the city of Seversk, by the way, in the northern part of DPR. Fight for Seversk and surrounding areas were going on for practically since the beginning of special military operation, right? Russian militaries were not really focused on Seversk, generally speaking, that much, but nevertheless, there was a constant fighting around Seversk that were happening for the last several years. And lately, Russian militaries definitely activated their operations, especially after Serbianka forestry were cleared from the northern side of Seversk. And I don't know what happened, by the way. I don't know what happened, but Kiev regime's garrison just freaking collapsed in the city. Literally in a few days' time, Seversk became under full Russian control. Great news for Russian side, obviously. Clearing operation is underway in the settlement. Videos are circulating now when Russian troops are moving in different parts of their city, on the north, in the center, in west, east, all over the places. There are some pockets of resistance still, so clearing operation probably will take another day or two, and then Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation will officially confirm, I think, liberation of Seversk. Maybe this will happen today even, right, or tomorrow. But city Russian control, major developments, by the way. I was saying, I was predicting that either Liman or Seversk, or maybe both, will be liberated before end of this year. And well, another my prediction became true, and good, great. And this is not all when it comes to success of the Russian militaries on the battlefield. This morning, we have this report also from TASS News Agency that Russian armed forces liberated Liman settlement in the Kharkov region. This is not a city Liman in the DPR on the western side of Seversk, but this is a village of Liman on the southern western part side of Volchansk city. And in previous my updates, I was talking about progress of the Russian armed forces in this settlement, in this village, and I was expecting clearing operation to be finalized shortly, and that's exactly what happened. And well, another my prediction is true. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry is confirming that yes, Liman village, Liman settlement is under full Russian control now. And this is not all. Russian armed forces are finalizing clearing operation in Svetla and Grishina settlements in a DPR. Let me give you some details on that. So servicemen from the Russian forces, central group of forces, are clearing the villages of Svetla and Grishina in Donetsk People's Republic. Russian Defense Ministry is reporting units of the central group of forces continue to destroy encircled Ukrainian armed forces formations in the Vostochny and Zapadny micro-districts of the village of the Dmitrov city, which is a Mirnograd city, by the way, as well as clearing the villages of Svetla and Grishina in the Donetsk People's Republic. And well, when it comes to Mirnograd, dear friends, I have said numerous times that there is allegedly 1,000 to 2,000 Kiev regime's troops encircled in the northern part, main body of this city, Mirnograd, or Dimitrov, Russian name. And different speculations were shared on internet in past several days. Kiev regime's propaganda was pushing the narrative that some significant part of this encircled troop managed to escape from Dimitrov. I did not see no confirmation of this report on any Russian media outlet. So in that report that Kiev regime's forces managed to escape, significant number of them managed to escape from Dmitrov. But what we know for sure is that Russian armed forces are offering opportunity for encircled troops of Kiev regime to lay down arms and surrender. And some units are accepting this offer and saving their lives. Some units don't. And when they don't, artillery and air force is called in. And that particular unit is, in most cases, vaporized, right? And I can show you another short video, by the way, on this very topic of FAB 3000 strike on the point of concentration of Kiev regime's forces that refuse to surrender. And that's the video, by the way. This is Mirnograd. There is snow, little snow in the city already. And well, in this building, unit of Kiev regime was located. They did not surrender. Air Force was called in. FAB 3000 strike, and well, you can imagine what is left from that unit. Literally nothing, right? That's it. Probably other units that are encircled somewhere there in not far away from that building. Once they see what happened to their comrades that refuse to surrender, probably they will think little better. Do they want to be vaporized, or maybe they want to save their lives? And let's hope they will make right decision, by the way, because especially if those units are built up from forcefully mobilized military personnel, they don't have to die. They don't have to die for Western geopolitical agenda and the Kyiv regime, right? They just don't. So hopefully they will make right decision, accept Russian offer, lay down arms, and surrender. Anyways, Russian armed forces continue liberating more and more areas that are temporarily occupied by NATO and NATO proxies. And for example, in my previous update, I reported that Russian military liberated Novodanilovka settlement, which is a big deal. This is Zaporozhye sector. And after liberating Novodanilovka, I think there is a neighboring village, Novoandreevka, that is name, if I remember correctly, on the southern western side of Orekhov. And once that village is liberated, then we will most likely see a major offensive on Orekhov city itself. And who knows, maybe Orekhov garnison will crack and fall as fast as Seversk garnison did, by the way. Seversk garnison was crushed like literally in a couple of days. I myself was surprised, even though I'm reporting about progress of the Russian armed forces on daily basis. Even I was surprised with the speed of advance of Russian troops inside the city, by the way. This is urbanized area, right? And it's always difficult to conduct rapid offensives inside their cities because they are heavily fortified. But I guess Kyiv regime's garnison just cracked there and collapsed completely. So yes, Novodanilovka is liberated. Also, Chervona settlement, which is located on the northern side of Konstantinovka, another hotspot, and Russian troops already conducting operations in the Konstantinovka. And also, Russian troops liberated Astapovskaya settlement in the Dnipropetrovsk region. This is all very important, of course. And let me show you all this stuff on the map now. So when it comes to Zaporozhye region, let's start from here. Stepnogorsk, by the way. Stepnogorsk still is our main hotspot on the western flank of Zaporozhye. No reports about the settlement being completely liberated yet by Russian forces, but soon this town is going to be liberated. I just mentioned Novodanilovka, isn't it? Settlement that is liberated by Russian forces, was liberated in previous few days. That's their settlement on the southern eastern side of Orekhov city, which is a major stronghold of Kyiv regime in the central part of Zaporozhye sector. And this is Novoandreevka village, as I mentioned, on the southern western side of Orekhov. And I think Russian troops will focus now on Novoandreevka. Nothing will stand there before Russian troops to launch offensive on Orekhov itself, on the Kyiv regime's garnison in Orekhov. And on the western side, on the western flank of Zaporozhye sector is, of course, Gulyai-Polye, major stronghold of Kyiv regime. And, videos are circulating, by the way, on internet, in which Russian troops are depicted in the central parts of the city already. Earlier, there was reports that most eastern and southern parts of the city were liberated by Russian forces already in Gulyai-Polye, but yet again, videos are circulating when Russian troops are operating in the central parts of the Gulyai-Polye. So it might well happen that Russian troops will liberate Gulyai-Polye also before end of this year. Maybe before end of next week, right? But there is high probability that before end of this year, Gulyai-Polye probably will be liberated by Russian troops. Also, when it comes to Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, by the way, this is the Mirnograd, Pokrovsk is under full Russian control, you know it. When it comes to Mirnograd, southern parts are already under Russian control, and Russian troops are finalizing clearing operation there. When it comes to northern part, which is completely encircled by Russian forces, is largely controlled still by Kyiv regime's forces, and the Russian militaries are yet again contacting these units one by one, offering opportunity to lay down arms and surrender. If they accept, okay, they are taken a prisoner. If they don't, then, as I already showed you, air force is called in, or artillery, missile forces, and their particular unit that refused to surrender is obliterated. That's what is happening, and therefore I really don't understand what the hell Kiev regime's troops are doing in Mirnograd. Why all of them did not yet surrender? They're not gonna survive, man. Some of them might escape. Some of them might escape. Yes, but most of them will die in these Russian long-range strikes. So, I mean, I can understand when neo-Nazi formations are refusing to surrender, because they know they're not going to be treated based on Geneva Conventions, because they are designated as a terrorist organization. This Azov, Kraken, and all the others. They are designated here in Russia officially as a terrorist organizations, and members of those terrorist organizations, they're not going to be treated based on Geneva Convention, because Geneva Convention is not apply on terrorists, right? Only on actual militaries. And therefore, I can understand why these neo-Nazi terrorist formations are afraid to surrender. But other troops, by the way, regular forces, troops that were forcefully mobilized, no matter under what pressure they are, under what Kiev regime, how Kiev regime terrified them or scared them that their relatives is going to be targeted if they surrender, or something else, and they being targeted, by the way, right? But nevertheless, I mean, common sense have to prevail, isn't it? What is the point to die in a FAB 3000 strike? You tell me, dear friends, because I don't understand. It's not heroism. It's just stupidity. It's literally stupidity. It has nothing to do with courage or heroism. It's just stupid. It's just stupid, man. Right? To die when you know you are encircled. You did the try to fight, right? You did what you could. You lost. You've been encircled, and now either you are going to surrender or bring FAB 3000 gonna came in and just obliterate everything and everybody, right? So what is the point to die in that strike? Just contact Russian side and surrender, but they are afraid, man. I don't know what Kiev regime is doing to these people, what they do to brains of these people, how they are scaring them that much, right? And there are different stories, isn't it? One, and most effective, is that they are mobilized troops that if they surrender, their relatives are going to be targeted. And this works on many, right? Because they are afraid that if they surrender or run away, their relatives are going to end up in a trouble. There are also cases when these are based on interviews of POWs themselves, by the way. There are many cases when POWs are told that Russians are not taking no POWs. So if you try to surrender, they will kill you. Which is lie, by the way. There's thousands, and if Russians are not taking POWs, how come that there is tens of thousands of POWs in Russian hands, right? And thousands and thousands of POWs already being exchanged, right? So this is not true what this military is being told by Kiev regime propagandists, but nevertheless, man, they are scared. They are scared, and they are dying for a Western geopolitical agenda and Zelensky's regime. It's crazy. It's sad, actually, right? Especially these forcefully mobilized people, by the way. I mean, they never wanted to be on the front line in the first place, right? But it's tragedy, man. This is everything that is happening, by the way, is a tragedy for the Russian world, man, because these people are Russian world too. Most of them, right, are part of Russian world, of course. This is a civil war, as I said many times before. Civil war that unfortunately West did manage to provoke. To continue on the battles, on update on the battlefield, friends, Konstantinovka, of course, is another hotspot in the DPR. And as I already mentioned, Chervona settlement on the northeastern side of Konstantinovka is liberated by Russian forces. And I expect the northern part of Konstantinovka to be liberated first, and then southern part of their city that is divided by river Krivoy Tarets, right? And yeah, let's see. Initiative is in Russian hand, by the way, in Konstantinovka area also, and well, Seversk, of course, Seversk, northern part of Donetsk sector. This is the Seversk, which is practically under full Russian control. There might be some pockets of resistance here and there, but generally speaking, city is under Russian control now and liberated her. Yet again, cleaning operation will be finalized probably in next day or two, and Defense Ministry will make it official. Defense Ministry will confirm liberation of this settlement. Also, Russian troops conducting offensives on enemy forces in Zakatnaya settlement, which is based on in between Seversk and Liman. And as you know, Seversk and Liman was two major strongholds of Kiev regime on the northern sector that were acting as a kind of a wall, defensive wall for strongly fortified defensive area of Kiev regime, which is Slavyansk Kramatorsk agglomeration, right? And this northeastern defense wall, let's say, is collapsing. It's collapsing, by the way. And once Russian troops will liberate Liman, and I think there is a probability that maybe even before end of this year, Russian troops will establish control over the Liman. Well, after that, there is literally nothing that the regime can do to stop Russian advance towards Slavyansk Kramatorsk. It is what it is. So major success of Russian troops, obviously, in a DPR by liberating this city of Seversk. And I mentioned Liman's village also, isn't it? This morning, Russian media, based on Defense Ministry's update, reported that Liman village on the southern western part of Volchansk city is under Russian control. And this is the village, by the way, that you see right now on your screen. Relatively small villager, maybe like 3-4 dozen of buildings, 50-60 buildings. But nevertheless, at this point, this village does has strategical importance, and the Russian troops are focused on Vilcha also. And I expect maybe even before end of this week, in next several days, Vilcha settlement by Russian forces. When it comes to Volchansk, by the way, Volchansk is already like week or two is already under full Russian control and liberated. And this is it for a short summary of the situation on a battlefield. As you can see, initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and I will say there is not even a theoretical chance in this or any other universes that Turkey regime and its NATO backers will manage to regain initiative in any direction. They lost this proxy war that they are waging against Russia, Western elites, and sooner they will acknowledge this, the better, I will say. Okay, to continue, or before I continue, dear friends, and there is quite a number of news left on some important developments, let me once again drop link to my Rumble channel in the YouTube chat, and I just did it, by the way. So you can see a link, by the way, to my Rumble channel, and if it's convenient for you, if you can switch the channels during this stream and watch my video on Rumble, that will be good help, of course, because I really want to try as much as I can to intensify development of the Rumble channel. By the way, subscribe to my channel if you have Rumble account. And so yes, that's being said, let's continue with some other news. I will just remind you that under this video in the description box, you can see links to support platforms if you want to donate to this project. By the way, if you want to support my work, you can find there link to my Patreon page, link to PayPal page, Boosty page, and also during the stream you can use, of course, super chat or rant feature on Rumble. Okay, for support. And well, that's been said, let's continue with some other news. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take down these pages, these windows that I already shared with you, to make sure that notebook not gonna crash, because plenty of windows are open. Okay, next news is about statements that Foreign Minister of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, made this morning, by the way. I think this will be interesting for many members of our communities. So I'm speaking at the ambassadorial around the table on the Ukrainian settlement. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that points in the U.S. peace plan had disappeared following Vladimir Zelensky's meeting with their EU leaders. He explained why Europeans were unlikely to be helpful in the negotiations and the significance of the Vladimir Putin's meeting with Steve Witkoff. Lavrov's key statements are summarized in the Kommersant's article here. And let me go through some key points in this summary. Dear friends, there was a super chat from Blorp on Rumble, and I will react on this super chat after a new segment, of course. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your attention and for your super chat on Rumble, for your commentary. I will react on it, of course, after the live stream, after the news segment. And let's go through some key points here. Russia and the US. So Putin and Witkoff cleared up any misunderstandings between Russia and the United States at the recent meeting, Lavrov said. Okay, whatever this means, by the way. It seems like there were some misunderstandings, some maybe they got lost in the translation or something. Could be case. In Moscow, both sides confirmed the mutual understanding reached in Alaska. This is a very important result, as there had been a certain pause after Anchorage. Russia has submitted additional proposals to the United States regarding collective security guarantees. Work with the US on Ukrainian settlement will continue, although Zelensky and the EU aim to undermine the efforts of Trump and his team, which is true, by the way. Clearly, globalists and globalist-controlled regimes all over Europe are doing whatever they can to derail any peace talks, to derail peace as much as possible. I mean, they hate an idea of peace, and they're still dreaming about achieving strategical defeat of Russia, isn't it? And they are not even hiding this. About Russia and Ukraine, Lavrov went to say that Russia has not seen the new version of the peace plan for Ukraine, which Zelensky and the EU are currently commenting on. We are waiting for contacts between Zelensky, the EU, and the US. For Zelensky, prolonging the Ukrainian conflict has become a matter of political and perhaps even physical survival, which is also true, by the way. Ukraine ignored Russia's proposals for a conflict resolution reached during 3 rounds of talks in Istanbul. Also factual, Ukraine must return to the non-aligned, neutral, and non-nuclear foundations of its statehood. Russia recognized Ukraine's independence on these principles. And this is very important, by the way. Russia only recognized statehood of Ukraine on these principles. Anything else will create reasonings for Russia to, reconsider its stance about recognizing statehood of Ukraine. Obviously, the losses of the Ukrainian armed forces during the conflict exceeded 1 million people, according to Lavrov. Losses of key regimes, combined losses, that is KIA and Winded, it's over 2 million at this point, by the way. Over 2 million. About 3 million even. Combined losses. According to reports that we have seen when Killnet, a hacker group, hacked their notebook from of Kiev regime's general staff, and when they took information from there, they released data that Kiev regime, as a KIA, killed in action and missing, lost 1.7 million. As a KIA and missing alone, they lost 1.7 million troops, according to this hacked data of Killnet hacker group. Data from general staff of Kiev regime. So if you add to this number at least 2-3 times more people that usually are wounded on every KIA, there is at least 2 or 3 wounded, isn't it? So overall number of casualties may way exceed 3 million even, for sure. Moscow handed over more than 11,000 bodies of Ukrainian armed forces soldiers to Kiev and received 201 bodies of the Russian fighters in return. Numbers are quite telling too, isn't it? Russian side transferred their 11,000 bodies of their Kiev regime's military personnel, while received their bodies of 201 military personnel. So 11,201. It's a massive difference, isn't it? Russia's December 2021 proposals on security guarantees remain valid. We are ready to consider other proposals regarding Ukraine that will lead to conclusion of legally binding security agreements, Lavrov said. Also, following the EU amendments, there are provisions on the ban of Nazism and the right of national minorities in Ukraine disappeared from their peace plan, which is strange, isn't it? They don't want to ban no Nazism, isn't it? These globalists and Western elites, they are using those Nazis, by the way, right? Why would they do anything against them now? Once those Nazis will become Europe's problem, and they're going to come Europe's problem very soon, by the way, or they will then change their attitude and rhetoric big time. Reducing Ukraine's obligations to EU regulations alone is unacceptable. Ukraine must comply with the UN Charter and numerous international conventions, including universal conventions on human rights, the right of national minorities, and religious freedoms, according to Lavrov. On the matter of Russia and Europe, foreign minister went to say that European peacekeepers in Ukraine will immediately become so-called peacekeepers. Let's make it clear. European so-called peacekeepers will immediately become a legitimate military target for Russia. I don't know how many times Russian officials have to say that any NATO troops on Kiev-controlled territory gonna be perceived as a legit target, and whenever opportunity comes around, they're gonna be targeted, right? Many Russian officials say so, and Russian militaries are acting on these statements, based on these statements, right? And a little later, I will report about a British serviceman, for example, that was killed in Ukraine. That was acknowledged first time by UK. Russia will draw conclusions about the factor of direct participation of British troops in the conflict in Ukraine. There are about 100 of them there. Their unkept British Prime Minister Boris Johnson played a subversive role in the Ukraine peace process in 2022, forcing Zelensky to abandon the initiated settlement plan, which is also factual, but it was not just Boris Johnson. I don't know why people are kind of ignoring the fact that Washington was actively engaged too. There are reports that high-ranking officials from State Department and Pentagon went to Kiev also. Not just Boris Johnson, but those Americans also went to Kiev to derail any peace deal between Moscow and Kiev. It's factual. The West has not responded in any way to Ukraine's decision to support negotiations with Russia, so that it would at least create their impression of being ready for a political regulation. Russia does not harbor any aggressive plans against NATO and the EU countries, and is prepared to provide such guarantees in writing. Russia is responsible for its words, while on the other side there is an openly militaristic fringe. If Europe declares to go to war, Russia is ready for it right now. Okay, Russian president says it also, and on this matter, dear friends, we'll understand that globalists, they are desperate. Globalists, Western ruling class, they are desperate. They are losing, right? They've been humiliated, right, on a world scale. First time in last, 3 to 5 centuries, right? Western ruling class is being humiliated for whole world to see. humiliated by Russia, and they are going crazy because of it. Collective West, these four dozen of countries, by the way, they are losing. They are doing anything and everything they can to defeat Russia, and they are losing, man. They are losing, and this makes them freaking nuts, right? They are going absolutely crazy, and they are resulting not just to increase a terror campaign, but they might go further than that. They might actually trigger direct clashes between NATO, European NATO member states, and Russia. And well, as the Russian president a couple of days ago and the Russian foreign minister today, Putin and Lavrov are saying Russia is ready. We don't want no freaking wars, man, with nobody. But if Europeans are seeking this war, and if they're gonna launch it, then well, we are here. We are here and ready. And as the Russian president said, by the way, and that was a very important nuance, as Russian president said, if European elites, if Western ruling class will dare to actually go ahead with their military aggression against Russia, open, direct military aggression against Russia, then that fight gonna be very different compared to military operations that are taking place in Ukraine. That fight gonna be very different if Europe dares to start it, and in very short time, there might be no one left from Western elites with whom Russia then can negotiate, let's say, capitulation of those European countries. Because with whom you're gonna negotiate if there is no one left from the leadership of your enemy, right? That was a very telling message from Russian president, and no one should ignore this stuff. Maybe Putin demonstrated, and he did, that he has like steel nerves, and he can exercise restraint as long as he finds it necessary. Yes, but he's issuing these kind of warnings not randomly, man. He's just telling to European elites what's going to happen to them. They launch a war against Russia, open war, they're gonna die. That's it, man. Russia is responsible for its words, while on the other side there is an openly militaristic frenzy. Lavrov said, I already mentioned this, if Europe decides to go to war, Russia is ready. Yes, Europeans are trying in every way to get to their negotiating table on Ukraine, but their sanity raises doubts about the usefulness of their proposals, which is also true, by the way. I mean, Lavrov can go tough on when he wants to on the opponents, right? And yes, that's about it from some key points of Lavrov. I think some interesting words there, for sure. And Kremlin responded to Zelensky's so-called energy ceasefire proposal. Let me give you an update on that too. So Russia is seeking a durable, legally binding peace agreement with Ukraine rather than a limited ceasefire, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Wednesday. His remarks came after Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky proposed a moratorium on energy strikes as their country faces worsening power outages. So no energy ceasefire, no any other ceasefire, no ceasefire at all. Only peace, either sustainable peace, or we will achieve all the goals of special military operation through military means. That's it. That's it. Russian leadership was very clear on that many times before. And of course, by the way, these desperate Western elites still continue to push for all sorts of this deception operations. Yes, that's what it is actually. All sorts of deception operations, and on this very matter, we have More information, by the way. We have more information. There is a 34 people that are watching live stream on Rumble, and 191 on YouTube. And I'm gonna drop a link to my Rumble channel again, dear friends. Yet again, if it's convenient for you, please click on that link of Rumble and continue watching this live stream there on Rumble. Will be very helpful, and I will be very grateful for this supporter. And so, yes, let's continue, by the way. Let's continue with some other news and deception that West is coming up, man. And for whatever reason, they still think they're going to fool us, man. Right? Either in Washington or other Western capitals. I mean, I don't know what is wrong with them, but they still think that they're going to fool us. They're still pushing for these nonsensical narratives, and for this, they are creating this illusion, and they are trying hard to create this, to paint this picture that, well, Washington now suddenly has changed and is for peace. And it's this European elites, by the way. I mean, they are bad guys. I mean, Washington is an angel now. But I mean, those ones in London, Brussels, and Berlin, and Paris, and Rome, I mean, those are the evil now, not the Washington. That's this false narrative that they are pushing, while in reality, they are working together. Obviously, they always do. And I don't know for whom they are pushing these narratives, because I don't see anybody here in Russia who takes them seriously, right? Who believes them. Maybe Moscow maintains diplomatic language as which is right way to approach the things. Maybe Moscow continues to be polite, diplomatic towards either Washington or even Western capitals, by the way. I mean, European Western capitals, but it does not mean that Moscow takes seriously anything that comes from them, right? But anyways, let me give you some details on this report that Trump allegedly gives Zelensky days to respond to a peace plan, which is laughable, isn't it? Headline itself, Financial Times, Western media outlet, propaganda outlet, is reporting about it originally, that Trump kind of issued an ultimatum to Zelensky, and you're going to come to the terms by this time. We already hear ultimatum that Zelensky should agree on Trump's so-called peace deal by Thanksgiving, isn't it? And what happened? Nothing, isn't it? Now there is new date, before Christmas. Before Christmas, Zelensky has to agree. And what is tragic and tragic comedic in this whole situation is that, I mean, world is watching, isn't it? And no one is freaking understand what the hell Washington is doing. Everyone knows Zelensky is a freaking puppet, right? He's nobody. He's in no position to say anything to Washington or to say anything, period, to anybody, right? When it comes to geopolitical scale, he is just a freaking nobody, puppet, proxy used by Western ruling class. So all these reports, by the way, that, Washington is pushing for peace, but you see Zelensky is refusing, and European elites are refusing. I mean, seriously, man, how should we take this seriously? Since when European freaking elites become a force to be reckoned with, especially for Washington? I mean, seriously, now we are exercising this new freaking nonsensical agenda that somehow Berlin is no longer US proxy. I mean, really? Last time I checked, Germany was still occupied by Americans, right? So what's going on? But anyways, man, and that's why it is becoming more and more difficult to take anything, literally anything, seriously that comes from the West, because this kind of false narratives, this kind of deception operations are just insult to intellect of the world community. Now they are acting as if Zelensky is somebody, some geopolitical figure, heavyweight, and now Zelensky is deciding something. Since when? Am I missing something? Since when Zelensky become somebody? What the hell, man? This freaking prostitute. Oh, Blin, let me give you details. U.S. negotiators have given Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky days to respond to a peace proposal requiring Kiev to accept territorial losses to Russia in exchange for unspecified security guarantees. The Financial Times reported on Thursday, citing officials familiar with the matter. One person told the Financial Times that the US President Donald Trump was hoping to reach a deal by Christmas. Zelensky reportedly told the US envoy that he needed time to consult with Kiev's European backers. Man, this is I mean, too bad. Man. It's just as I said, it's tragicomedic stuff here, right? It's just you know, freaking nonsense. For whom Western elites are doing this whole show? For whom? Theoretically speaking, they would love to fool Russia, isn't it? They would love to mislead Russia, misinform Russia, create this false narrative that for paint this false picture that you see, I mean, the negotiations are hard and Washington is trying hard, but you see Kiev is refusing, Europeans are refusing, and this and that. And Moscow, you trust me. I'm a Washington. I'm a good guy. Those are bad ones, and we should do some business here, right? And you know what? I'm about to strike Venezuela, and please, I mean, you see how good I am. Don't do nothing against me in Venezuela or elsewhere. I promise I'm a good guy now. I mean, this is freaking nonsense, man. This is too cheap. These kind of games are just too freaking cheap, right? Too cheap, man, to take seriously, to be taken seriously by anybody, either in Russia or elsewhere, man, right? And on the very same topic, we have other reports too that U.S. has prepared a document committing not to expand NATO, according to media. Another nonsensical stuff, by the way. United States has prepared a document stipulating non-expansion of NATO and the refusal to invite Ukraine, reports Ukrainian publication Zerkala Nedeli, Mirror of the Week. That's the translation of this media, so-called media from Ukraine. The four documents that make up the new Trump's peace plan are an agreement between Ukraine, Russia, United States, Europe, some 20 points. This is Europe's new 20-point plan, by the way, that Moscow gives no flying Fs about. Framework security assurance, Ukraine, US commitments to NATO, and an agreement between Russia and United States. The article says, but I have no freaking idea how this so-called media in Kiev-controlled territory can know what plans Washington has, really. But idea itself that, well, to somehow fool Russia, to somehow mislead Russia, they're gonna, promise that, well, we will write it down and obligate ourselves that we're not going to expand NATO a single inch now. So you trust us then. You see how good we are. They really think this will work. Trump will sign up something today, and tomorrow someone else going to be in the White House, and they're going to say, you know what, Trump was crazy, man. He was signing some crazy stuff here. We are annulling everything. We are annulling everything that Trump signed up for. And this kind of stuff is happening constantly with the Western world, isn't it? One government signs up for something and another then, rebooks all of it, right? Annuls all of it. Trump himself did it. For example, with the Iran deal. I mean, biggest example, right? Iran's nuclear deal. That was done by Obama's administration, and one of the first things Trump did when he get to office during his first presidency was that he annulled that deal. So who gives a damn what they're gonna write on the paper? They cannot be trusted, period, right? Today they might sign up for one paper, tomorrow they might sign up for paper that will says exactly the opposite. That's why I was always saying that Western elites are approaching the point when they just literally cannot be trusted. I mean, no matter what they're gonna say or what they're gonna sign up for, no one in this world would be able to take it seriously. And we are already in that place, isn't it? I mean, objectively speaking, if you were a Russian president, dear friends, if you were a Russian president or Russian official, foreign minister, would you trust a single word either from Washington or London or Paris or Berlin or Rome or any other Western capital? I honestly, would you trust a single word from them? No, you would not. You would not, man, because you cannot. They cannot be trusted, period. That's how that's how badly they acted, these Western elites. That's how much they destroyed their faking reputation, if they ever had one, right? So this is also nonsense, by the way. All these rumors that Washington might do this and that, and this is nonsense, by the way. Part of this large-scale deception operation that West launched to somehow lure Russia into this trap, right? And then Washington is seeking one stuff, Europeans seeking another. In some cases, they are seeking same stuff. And I can explain, by the way, I mean, they all seek temporary ceasefire, right? They need break. They all seek break, by the way, for themselves and for their proxy Kyiv regime and its armed forces, to rearm them, reorganize and prepare as much as they can for the next round of hostilities, right? Russia not going to give them this break. Russian leadership was very clear on that. And at the same time, Washington also seeks, as I said before, some sort of guarantees from Moscow that Russia will seek no revenge on US on a state level, either in Venezuela, if US attacks Venezuela, or elsewhere, but because Americans do understand. I mean, Washington, maybe Trump is a freaking, not a genius of our times, but probably even he understands that Russia can do to the US exactly what US did to Russia. Russia can do to US exactly the same stuff in Venezuela. Or elsewhere, by the way, that US might end up being engaged militarily. And I don't think US is able to withstand such a pressure. I honestly don't think that US society or US as a state will be able to withstand dealing with for how many years now, when whole freaking collective West is engaged in this war, right, against us. Can you imagine what will happen in US when 10,000 US militaries will die, 20,000 US militaries will die, blown in freaking pieces, right, or all over the Venezuela? When a US aircraft carrier suddenly sinks, by the way, or gets smashed, right, in such a ways that thousands of sailors are freaking killed, fried on that ship. Or any other vessel, by the way, Arleigh class destroyers being smashed, and hundreds of US sailors being, evaporated. How US society will react on that? How US itself will react on that? They, since the Vietnam, they never actually experienced anything like that, isn't it? In terms of casualty numbers. And so, yes, Washington of rights, White House of rights, Pentagon of rights, and as they should. And one of the reasons why Washington is deceptively engaged in deception operation also that West launched against Russia is that they want to somehow fool Russian leadership, mislead Russian leadership, while painting all these false narratives, false pictures, right? And receive, not just achieve some break for their proxy Kyiv regime and for themselves, US, Europe, and others that are engaged in this war against Russia. But also Washington wants some guarantees that Russia will seek no revenge on US, either in Venezuela or in Cuba, by the way, which is going to be next, obviously, right? I'm quite sure Washington has plans about attacking Cuba too, and elsewhere. If anybody in the US was thinking that it's only US or the NATO countries can use their proxies to harm others, no, man. Others can do the same. And if people of Venezuela fight, by the way, I'm quite sure they will receive all the necessary support they will need it, officially or not, but they will receive all the necessary assistance from many friends that they have worldwide. And that's it. So yes, therefore, someone have to tell these Western so-called elites that they should stop, man. They should stop making joke of themselves while pushing these false narratives, because no one is taking them seriously, man. This deception is not working no more. They're not gonna fool nobody, right? Because nobody is trusting them, right? Even for a second. And there is allegedly another U.S. proposal, part of this deception, according to Washington Post. Proposal is that they're going to be some sort of Russia-Ukraine DMZ, demilitarized zone, modeled after North-South Korea. And you know what? This is not happening, man. This is not happening. I tell you what is going to happen. I've said it many times before. Special military operation will end when Russian troops will reach the borders of the Western Ukraine. That's it. Special military operation will end when Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. And that means everything east of the Western Ukraine going to be liberated, including Kiev, by the way. Not just Kharkov region, Sumy region, Chernigov region, Dnipropetrovsk region, or, by the way, Nikolaev and Odessa regions, but Kiev also. Obviously, Kiev is a Russian city, by the way, and should be part of Russia. What the hell? This is not supposed to be even a topic of discussion. Kiev is a Russian city, and they have to come back to Mother Russia, period. There is nothing to discuss there. Russia was very generous in its offers, and still is, I believe, by the way. If Russian terms are taken by the globalists, by Western elites, if they capitulate, right, this war will end. All they have to do is capitulate, agree on the concessions for all the harm that they did, right, and get lost then after that. But they're not going to do this, right? They're not going to do this. They are not ready for capitulation, and therefore this special military operation will continue, and will only end once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. So there ain't gonna be no freaking DMZs and that kind of stuff, man. No. Once we will reach Western Ukraine, well, we will fortify the area, right, to make sure that there is a clearly good defensive lines there, and no Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists are gonna be able to easily cross that defense line, and then let their NATO deal with those Nazis and the fascists that are going to be packed in this western part of Ukraine. Let them deal with it, man. One day, Poland going to reclaim 70% of this territory. Then Hungary going to say, you know what, Transcarpathia is my territory now, as it was in the past. Romania going to claim whatever they can, right, from the western parts of Ukraine, Chernobyl city, for example, and surrounding areas. Okay, man. Okay, it's up to them what they're gonna do with the western parts of Ukraine, but the rest are gonna become Russia, part of Russia. That's it. They're gonna be referendums, and people will make up their minds, right, what they want. If they will decide that they want to go independent, it's their choice, right? But for whatever reason, I'm quite sure people would love to become part of Russia and to have a peace, by the way, peaceful life, right? Stability and their prospects for a better life. So I'm quite sure vast majority, as it was in the Crimea, by the way, for example, vast majority, 90+% will vote to join the Russian Federation, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So that's my prediction, by the way, because I don't believe that Western ruling class is genuine whenever there is talks about peace, sustainable peace. They cannot be trusted, so therefore Russia don't really has much options but to continue this special military operation until Russian troops will reach the borders of the Western Ukraine, while leaving door open for negotiations. But yet again, it's hard to negotiate or achieve any success with opponents when their opponents are constantly lying and are not honoring nothing. No agreement, right? So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. RIA Novosti is reporting that allegedly Trump also said that there should be some presidential elections in Ukraine. Okay. I mean, I don't think this is really, you know, okay, let them do presidential elections. I don't think this is happening. But yet again, by the way, more Trump talks in regards to Ukraine, more laughable he's becoming. Because, seems like he went too far in this game and in this deception. And he is now jeopardizing his own image, right? Because he talks too much. This has to be done, and that, and this to be done, and nothing is done, right? So what the hell? Someone have to tell him that, you know what, just keep quiet for a little while, or ignore this topic completely, because more you talk, more you jeopardize your image. Because seems like on one side you are acting as a tough guy, right? As a big boss of the Western world, and pretending to be boss of whole world. And on the other hand, you say so much stuff, by the way, and nothing has happened. You are not following up on your statements. So just keep it quiet, man. Don't make laughing stock from yourself, right? Trump said there had to be elections. Then do it, man. Then do it. It's up to you. It's not up to Zelensky, for God's sake. We all understand this, isn't it? We all know. Just do it then. You control Ukraine, right? Together with your other so-called allies. In reality, puppets in Europe, by the way, that pretending to be independent states, man. Unbelievable. As I said, dear friends, UK first time acknowledged that they lost military in Ukraine. So UK military service member has been killed in an undisclosed incident in Ukraine. The British Ministry of Defense has announced, and we have even name of this person. Member of UK Armed Forces who died in Ukraine has been named as Lance Corporal George Hooley of the Parachute Regiment. The UK Ministry of Defense has said, publicly acknowledging for the first time that its paratroopers have been operating inside the Ukraine. 28-year-old was killed in what the ministry described as on Tuesday as a tragic accident while absorbing Ukrainian forces testing a new defensive system away from the front line. I mean, really? According to BBC, the incident is not thought to have been caused by hostile fire. The Telegraph cited a defense source as saying it is the first official UK military casualty in Ukraine. Officially, maybe first, but in reality, according to reports, at least 40 UK citizens have been killed in a fight while fighting on alongside this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky since 2022. At least 40, and we should keep in mind, dear friends, that whenever Russian troops are eliminating British Special Forces units, SAS, Special Boat Service units, or whatever, this information is always classified, and UK never going to release information on that. And I know Russian troops have obliterated SAS fighter units and their special boat service units on numerous occasions, because after all, on video, by the way, on tape, Prigozhin, if you remember, Prigozhin, head of Wagner PMC, says directly that during there was instances when bodies of their SAS fighters were transferred to British representatives to the Kiev regime side, and during this transfer there was a British representatives too to receive these bodies of the killed SAS fighters. So yeah, who knows how many SAS troops or special bot service troops have been killed, by the way, there in Ukraine. Many, very many. I cannot even speculate on the matter because I have no freaking idea. But based on evidences, what we have, one may argue that the real number is actually more than 40. Real number of British citizens that have been killed, including British military, members of their SAS, Special Air Service, isn't it? And they're members of the Special Bot Service. This is two elite special forces that UK has, isn't it? And they're all suffering significant casualties, by the way. And when it comes to death of this 28-year-old paratrooper, British paratrooper, I don't buy into the story that he was somewhere in way behind the front line and died as a result of when some defensive weapons were tested. I mean, seriously, man, who's gonna buy this shit, man? I don't know. Probably he was somewhere on the line of contact and he was just neutralized during their gunfight, or maybe he was neutralized during an airstrike or something. Could be case, but anyways, first time London is acknowledging that it does has troops, militaries on Kiev-controlled territory. Interesting. No surprise, not really surprising news, not for us, our community, but nevertheless, it is good to know that it's official, that yes, Kiev regime receives help from British militaries, and this is public now. RT is also reporting that UK Navy, by the way, needs more cash toward of Russian advantage. Okay, by the way, British Navy, does UK still have a navy? By the way, I mean, it's last time I checked, it was some freaking joke, a really joke, man. I mean, just too bad. But anyways, the British Royal Navy needs significantly more investments and closer ties with arms makers in order to retain its advantage. I mean, do they have any advantage anywhere? Come on, man. You don't have a battle-capable vessels, man. Like maybe one or two are somewhat battle-capable. That's all it is. You don't really have a navy. You just don't have a navy, man. Who you are fooling, man, with this nonsense. So they need more cash, more investments, and closer ties with the arms makers in order to retain advantage in the Atlantic over rivals such as Russia. First Sea Lord General Gwyn Jenkins has stated, addressing their Sea Power Conference on Monday, this happened, UK's top naval officer said their country's maritime edge is eroding as the global competitors invest in expanding their capabilities. The advantage that we have enjoyed in Atlantic since the end of the Second World War is at risk. We are holding on, but not by much, Jenkins claimed. Our would-be opponents are investing billions, so we have to step up or we will lose that advantage. He said, and let's be real here, they don't have no freaking advantage in any field, by the way, when it comes to military affairs, not in the Navy, not in the air, not on the ground. UK's military is a freaking joke. Everyone understands this. Everyone literally understands this, right? They have two freaking new aircraft carriers, by the way. None of them are ready ever. I mean, can you imagine? They spend billions of pounds of taxpayers' money, build this garbage, these two so-called aircraft carriers, by the way. Prince of Wales is one, and Queen Elizabeth is another, right? And none of these freaking so-called aircraft carriers are ever ready for anything. They are constantly experiencing some issues, by the way. It's a garbage, floating garbage. Literally, by the way. I'm not exaggerating nothing. It's a freaking floating garbage worth of, I don't know, billions of pounds, by the way. I don't have exact numbers, how much it costs precisely, but probably at least each aircraft carrier probably cost at least 1 billion pounds or maybe 2 billion pounds, who knows, right? It's in billions anyways, right? So that's all it is when it comes to other vessels. I mean, UK was hoping to receive a new generation of nuclear submarines for how long now? How long, man? They want to replace these Vanguard-class nuclear submarines. And how things are going there? Any success? Not really, isn't it? No success stories there. Recently, they adopted their frigate, I believe, or destroyer or something. And it was a funny story, by the way, that British media itself reported that on this vessel, on this destroyer, there is a parts of it that used to be designated to hold their missiles, right? It was an area for missile launchers. And that area was turned into freaking gym for sailors. You know why? There are no missiles, man. There are no missiles to put there, missile launchers. They designed and built the ship that cannot operate under its designation because missile systems are not there. Yet another floating garbage, right? And that's what is happening, by the way, all over their field there in UK's military-industrial complex. If you think things are bad in the Navy, wait, man, wait until you see what's going on in terms of ground forces, by the way. It's even worse. And I'm going to show you, by the way, now some short video of Ajax infantry fighting vehicle, which is, already, I believe billions of taxpayers' money were spent in the past, I don't know, decade or so to produce this infantry fighting vehicle, right? Ajax name is. And this vehicle constantly was experiencing some difficulties. It's too freaking noisy. It vibrates in a way that militaries, by the way, inside this vehicle are getting sick. Something is wrong, man, with the construction, with materials that are used in this vehicle, with the engine. Everything is wrong with this vehicle, by the way. It's built poorly, so poorly, by the way. When I see this video, I could not believe my eyes. I'm going to show you now. By the way. You're going to laugh at this, man. Look. This is a brand new vehicle, infantry fighting vehicle of UK. Ajax. Just look, man. What's going on here, man? What is this? What is this, man? This is brand new, by the way. You know, this vehicle have not been in a battle. It's a freaking new stuff. You know? And just one look around the vehicle already tells it built so poorly, by the way. So poorly that it makes too much freaking noise for militaries. We all understand this is not supposed to be a freaking Bentley, as comfortable as Bentley, right? Or Rolls-Royce. It's an infantry fighting vehicle after all. But, it has to be good enough, right? So that militaries will be able to operate with it. But what is happening is that vibration inside the vehicle is such that people are literally getting sick. And it's just too freaking noisy. Too noisy, and we can understand now why. It's built so poorly, man. It's just I don't know, man. When I saw this video, I was thinking, is this real video? I mean, or is this a joke or some sort of? But it is real. I saw this video on many other channels too. So it is what it is. That's a state of British military, by the way. British military industrial complex. British military. Would be better if London just keep quiet, and stay out of headlines as much as possible, and never ever pretend to be some force, because it's not even laughable at this point. It's sad, man. You know, people are looking at UK and saying, "What the hell? What has happened to this country, man? What these so-called elites did to the country, man, that had their great prospects some 30 years ago, and now it's I don't know." Anyways, let's continue. By the way, British people. Hopefully, British people will wake up and will deal with their own elites. By the way, because it's their country after all. It's their political class or their elites. So let them deal with the situation. They have to fight for their own country. We cannot help them with this fight, right? We can support them. We can support, and we support, of course, ordinary people all over the world, in UK and elsewhere. But this is their fight, right? We cannot fight this fight for them. It's their country, and they have to take care of it, man. UK being humiliated by its own government, by its own elites, and this continues for decades, man. What the hell? Anyways, Polish general staff allegedly are engaged in negotiations with the Kiev regime and plans to transfer old MiG-29 fighter jets that Poland is planning to retire from its air force. Some of them already might be retired. And in exchange, allegedly, yet again, Poland is expecting from Kiev regime some technology transfer in terms of missiles and drones. Okay, maybe this will work out, maybe not. Poland already sent dozens of planes, its Soviet airplanes, to Kiev regime. MiG-29s are included, and most of them or all of them already being destroyed by Russian forces. And it might happen that Poland will transfer additional batch of these planes, and Russian Air Force, Russian air defenses will take care of them too, obviously. But while Poland is promising that they might transfer older Soviet MiG-29s to Kiev regime, Russian Air Force is actually receiving new planes on a regular basis. For that, new batch or additional or another batch of Su-34 frontline bombers, fighter bombers, have been delivered to Russian Air Force. And of course, you are familiar, dear friends, with Su-34. These planes prove themselves to be very capable beasts. They prove themselves in Syria while during the fight against Western-backed terrorist organizations, and they are proving themselves also in the zone of special military operation. Most of these FAB 500, FAB 1500, FAB 3000 strikes are delivered by Su-34s. So it's a beast, by the way. These planes, they are beasts. Also, of course, Venezuela. We have to talk about what's going on in Caribbean, and U.S. Start implementing sort of a maritime blockade on Venezuela because U.S. military hijacked a tanker, a Venezuelan oil tanker, and I can show you footage, by the way, of this operation, short video of that. Many of you have already seen, I guess, this video. So, what kind of movie they are filming, by the way? Do they really need to stand, act like they're gonna be some gunfight right now? What the hell, man? This is civilian vessel there, civilian crew. What is this show is all about, man? It's embarrassing stuff, isn't it? What are they doing, man? Uh, so yeah, they are hijacking now vessels. They are conducting this. They don't. They are not shying away no more. By the way, killing people whenever they want or anywhere, right? Without due process, without anything. They are not shying away to hijacker tankers. U.S. is out of control. Western world, generally speaking, is out of control, and they're becoming more and more unhinged as time goes by. It's just crazy. It's just freaking crazy, by the way. And Trump was asked what they're gonna do about this tanker, and he said, "Oh, what they're gonna do with oil on this tanker?" And they say they're gonna keep it. What the hell, man? I don't know. I don't know, man. This is, I mean, no longer shocking because yet again, Western world is becoming more and more unhinged. By the way, I mean, it's insane as time goes by. But so none of us be surprised whenever when we see some crazy stuff on that is done by Western world. But is anybody left there with the brains in among leadership of the Western countries? In this particular case, US. What are they doing, man? What this show? Why they are doing these shows, man? Why they are killing the people, innocent people? Why they are operating like terrorist state? I don't know. I don't know, man. It's crazy. And as I said, Trump not just acknowledged that this vessel, he announced actually that U.S. military seized this or hijacked this vessel, and when he was asked what he intends to do with the oil in this very large tanker, he called this tanker very large, very large tanker or something like that. Trump replied on a question that he would most likely keep this oil for himself. That is, U.S. will probably keep it. Still, they are stealing, man, openly. As if nothing. I mean, we just steal tanker, packed full of oil, and we're gonna keep it, man, because yeah, why not? That's what we want to do, and yeah, okay, man. Okay, don't ask then other countries to behave in a certain way because you yourself are behaving in ways that I don't know, goes way beyond sanity. Correct. Also, reports are, dear friends, that U.S. Air Force from aircraft carrier strike group, and there is Gerald Ford aircraft carrier in the area, isn't it? So Air Force F-18s from that and other planes from that carrier are intensifying their operations around Venezuela. And yesterday, Miami Herald, I believe this was yesterday, when Miami Herald reported that U.S. F-18 fighter jets enter Venezuelan airspace for 40 minutes. 40, by the way, for 40 minutes. It's just crazy, isn't it? It's a pure provocation. Maybe they were asking for trouble, maybe they were asking that they're gonna be shot at by air defense missiles or something, and then they will use this as a pretext for a massive attack on Venezuela. I don't know what is going on, but clearly if US is beginning to hijack vessels, imposing kind of maritime blockade on Venezuela, if US is shutting down Venezuela's airspace without any rights on that, but well, planes are afraid to fly in that zone because who knows, maybe they're gonna get shot at by US militaries. And now US Air Force is entering Venezuelan airspace for 40 freaking minutes. Well, they are getting closer and closer to actual war, isn't it? And well, what can I say, man? It well might happen that if people of Venezuela will fight, they might actually turn the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea into graveyard for U.S. Navy vessels, U.S. sailors, and they can turn Venezuela into a graveyard for U.S. troops. I don't know if American society understands this. Maybe they watch too much Hollywood movies, people in the US, and they think US militaries are absolutely unstoppable. They are freaking Terminators, and they go in and win always. And no, man, this is not the case. Last time US fought capable enemy, that was Vietnam, isn't it? And US lost. Last time US militaries were engaged in a large-scale military operation against their more or less capable enemy. It was Vietnam, by the way. They lost, and I can tell you more, by the way. U.S. lost war even against Taliban. And Taliban, compared to North Korean troops, North Vietnamese troops, by the way, Taliban did not have anything. Just a freaking cage, man, mostly. That's it. And they beat the crap out of NATO militaries, including U.S. militaries. Like that, basically with bare hands, man. So that's what U.S. militaries are, man. That's the state of U.S. militaries. Those movies, man, they don't say the true story. So that's why I'm saying if people of Venezuela are gonna fight, if U.S. dares to attack actually, and try to recolonize, and if people of Venezuela are gonna fight her, well, they're gonna turn. I'm 100% positive that they're going to turn Venezuela into a graveyard of U.S. militaries and their Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico into graveyard for U.S. Navy. This is going to be a massive mistake, by the way, on part of Washington. They should not. They should go away right now while they still can. Americans should go away while they still can, man. And I don't understand why there is no massive anti-war movements in the US, by the way. I mean, are people really for war? For more wars? I don't know. I'm not American, but, Anyways, there is another hotspot now on this planet, war that was provoked by US and the Trump's administration, military confrontation, that not a full-scale war yet, but military confrontation that was provoked by US administration between Thailand and Cambodia, about which Trump bragged about many times that he stopped the conflict that was provoked by US itself. But, well, he didn't stop nothing, right? He didn't stop nothing, and their sides are firing at each other like there is no tomorrow. Thailand is using Air Force. Cambodia is shelling Thailand with multi-launch rocket systems. There is a cross-border fight going on. That on Thailand's side, 400,000 civilians have to be evacuated. So it is becoming actually, a large-scale confrontation that might actually turn into a full-scale war between two neighboring countries. So I wonder when Trump remembers about Thailand and Cambodia. Does not he wants to bring peace there again? No. So yeah, that's another area, by the way, of on this planet that demands some attentions now, because clearly sides are escalating, and they might go full out war at any day if nothing is changed. Also interesting report that all visitors, by the way, all visitors to US will have to provide 5-year history of their social media accounts. That's going to be obligatory even for tourists from the UK or Germany that don't really need visas to enter US, which is interesting, isn't it? I don't know who came up with this idea in US. I don't know what's going on in their brains there. Who gonna freaking check 5 years of history on social platforms of people? How are they gonna freaking check this stuff? Technically, even I don't know, but yeah, that's what is going on, man. Insanity levels of insanity in the Western world is peaking, and seems like there is no stop there. They are going more and more insane with time, right? So yeah, very many people from Europe probably gonna be turned away from from US because someday 3 years ago they wrote some shit about Trump, for example, or they wrote something that U.S. administration did not like, and that's about it, right? That's gonna be enough to close the border for those people, maybe forever even. Anyways, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. Vice President of US, meanwhile, is saying that mass immigration is undermining American dream. Oh, really? Mass immigration is running the American dream, ruining the American dream. US Vice President J.D. Vance has said, aimed the federal government's increase in ICE raids and deportations of illegal migrants. And I mean, let's be real here, dear friends. I said even before Trump was inaugurated, isn't it? I said that this migration, topic of migration, is being politicized, used there for political points by both sides of aisle in the US. But in reality, both sides are just messing around because this open border policy is intentional policy agreed by American ruling class. This is their official policy. Not openly, but that's the policy that they are implementing because sometimes, some decades ago, clearly decision was made by true ruling class in US, true rulers that are pulling the strings, that to stay competitive on a world scale, they need more people. They just need more people. They don't give a fuck about American dream or American way of life. They don't care about any. They need more people, right? That was their calculus. They need more people to stay relevant on geopolitical scale, to be competitive, to manage, to stay competitive to China, India, or other emerging economies there in the global south. And they started implementing these open border policies, right? And then they are using these parties that they control, Democrats and Republicans, to basically to make sure that their steam is out from public, right? They are always trying to make sure that in a steam that is building in the public that is not happy with what is going on is going to be out, right? And well, Republicans always acting like, oh, we're going to do with these illegals, by the way, we're going to deport all of them and this and that, and they always lie, right? Because yet again, this is an implemented policy of their ruling class of America. And I was saying, isn't it, even before Trump was inaugurated, that they're going to be big noise that, they are all against these illegals, right? They're going to deport this and that, and they're going to make it media very visible. And they will deport. I said it, isn't it? I clearly remember. I said they might deport actually 300,000, 500,000, maybe even million. And they will create this false narrative, they will paint false picture that they are actually deporting in mass, right? They are dealing with their illegal migration. While in reality, by the way, according to reports, some 60 million people enter US, migrated into US in the last 3 to 4 decades. 60 million. 60 million, by the way. And according to reports, Trump's administration deported like 300,000. 300,000, correct number? Some saying 500,000, but it definitely not tens of millions, right? Definitely not tens of millions, and they're never going to be tens of millions because they will talk a lot, loudly. They make too much noise that they are fighting these illegal migrants and this and that. And JDS is doing exactly that, by the way, right? He's making noise. But in reality, they will continue to maintain this open border policy, right? They will let steam out now, a little bit, and then they will continue, and they will make it easier for legal migration, right? There was and they will use it, legal migration, illegal migration. They will do whatever they can to increase their population in the US because things like they think this is their only way they have to somehow maintain competitiveness with their 1.5 billion people economies of China and India and others, by the way, right? Indonesia, this archipelago island nation, by the way, is for example, not really less populated than US, maybe more populated actually, right? It's 300 plus million people, I believe, in Venezuela, and it's like 350 in US, right? And I think our target of American ruling class is at least 500 million. So they will continue. They will continue to bring in more and more people under whatever pretext, but they will continue to bring more and more people, right? Because I think they plan to reach 500,000 at least. And the Europeans were doing the same. And in Europe, by the way, these policies might be changed, maybe, right? Because a number of European countries, due to this high level of migration, are on the brink of civil wars now. So Europe completely failed, in everything, right? America is a bit different story. I know now all sorts of narratives being pushed that there is some Somali gangs here and these gangs there and that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, US is assimilating much more successfully the incomers than Europe. In Europe, there is no assimilation, by the way. Absolutely not, right? And that's one of the reasons why many European countries, UK, France, by the way, Germany, they're on the brink of civil war. The level of hate there between different groups of societies is tremendous. They actually hate each other, right? If governments were adopting certain policies to assimilate these people, to integrate these people into societies, then that would be different. In that case, Europe possibly would succeed, right? Increasing artificially its population to maintain competitiveness with the global south. But they failed, man. They did not implement nothing. They just bring in these tens of millions of people, right? And continue to do so to nowadays. Without creating any programs, that helps integrate those newcomers, right? And therefore, these newcomers are creating their own ghettos here and there, and some of them then commit crimes, right? Not all of them, I'm quite sure. Just a minority of these newcomers are committing crimes, either in US or in the Europe, by the way. But those crimes are visible, right? And overall tension in the society that is stretched beyond limits makes of these crimes a tremendous deal. And it's always a tragedy, by the way. It's always a big deal, obviously. But do it when people being killed by these illegals or even legal migrants, when people killed in general, it's tragedy, of course. But due to these internal tensions, whenever these foreigners or migrants committing crime, it's always puts further more pressure on society and creates this false narrative that all of them are this way, like all these newcomers are like killers and murderers, while which is not true, cannot be true, by the way, right? I don't believe there are societies that are where majority is killers. I mean, I don't believe in that. There are societies everywhere in this world where certain groups, certain percentage is a criminal, right? But not all of them, right? But nevertheless, yeah, U.S. and Europe are now experiencing some issues. But if US is in a better place relatively, Europe is not, man. And, I don't know what Europeans gonna do. Probably they will have no option but to stop migration at some point. Otherwise, and not just stop migration, but actually start deporting people, these illegals, to ease the tension inside their communities. Otherwise, they're gonna be some freaking pogroms. By the way, you're gonna see pogroms in UK, in France, in Germany, elsewhere possibly, right? Pogroms that will be committed by locals, by Englishmen, Scottishmen, Welshmen against these newcomers, right? Migrants from, I don't know, God knows where. You might see pogroms when Germans will go after ethnic minorities, right? Religious minorities. You might see something similar in France too. So yeah, in US, in case of US, by the way, this is all BS, isn't it? Whenever Trump or Vance or anyone else is talking about dealing with their migration, illegal migration, this is all false narratives. By the way, they are lying to public. In reality, they will continue to bring more and more people. They will find the ways, right? Because I think they still want to increase significantly, artificially, US population to stay relevant on geopolitical scale, to compete basically. And that's about it, dear friends. Yes, I have one more reporter. Gref, head of Sberbank, or Sber, as it's called, biggest lender here in Russia, said that Russia's economic growth in 2026 will be around 1%. The key rate could reach 12% by the end of 2026, according to him. Let's see, by the way, central bank and economical bloc here in Russia is still focused on cooling down their economy, and they just maybe they went just too far even, because nowadays it is almost impossible to get a loan in a bank. I tried yesterday, literally, by the way. I tried yesterday to get a little loan for only like 300,000 rubles, and bank in which I have accounts and story. I mean, I have good account, by the way, right? I'm never late on any payment. I'm always fulfilling my obligations, sir, and the bank refused to give me a loan of 300,000 rubles that I was asking. And also yesterday, my wife, who also has a good record, good credit record, never late on any payments or anything. Later on, we conducted some sorts of social experiment. I asked her to go to a bank. We were just passing by, and she went and asked for 100,000 rubles. Correct, loan, 100,000 rubles, which is, by the way, like 1,500 or not even $1,500. And bank refused to give her a loan of 100,000. So you see what is going on. Economy in this pursuit of cooling down economy, central bank is not just maintaining high interest rate, but which makes credits very expensive. But also, I think there is some orders also from economical bloc towards the banks, towards the lenders, not to give loans, rather, or to minimize loans that they give. And that's what they do, man. I truly don't understand why they refuse to give me 300,000 ruble yesterday, or to my or to give 100,000 rubles to my wife. It's small numbers, by the way. It's tiny amount, right? But they just generally don't do loans no more, right? And of course, this will not just cool down economy, but I think such situation will bring many businesses to the edge of bankruptcy, or probably many businesses will go out of business because I was asking for a loan to buy gifts for New Year, for example. That was reasoning, by the way. I was having some plans. I want to buy these gifts and those gifts for my kids and relatives, and that was a reason. I cannot pay, buy those stuffs while paying at once because I don't have such savings. But I was hoping bank will give me loan and I will pay interest rate, whatever it's gonna be like. For 300,000, I was thinking maximum interest rate from banker will be like maybe 7 to 10,000 rubles a month, right? I can deal with that, but they refuse. They refuse, man. So yeah, I don't know about economical growth in 2026, man. Right now, seems like industrial complex is working. Rester is in experiencing some difficulties, especially small and medium businesses. They probably are in harm's way, man. Because yet again, you see how many people are like me now, that they have savings to buy gifts. This new year is coming, isn't it? And everyone is thinking to buy gifts for family members, relatives, friends, and so on. And many people, usually that's what they do. They take loan and buy stuff through loans. It's no longer valuable option here in Russia. So yes, maybe central bank and economical bloc just went a little too far in their pursuit of cool down economy. Let's hope they're not gonna freeze this economy, man. Otherwise, next year we might see recession. At this point, I would not be surprised if next year Russian economy will experience recession because, anyways, let's see. I'm not an economist, by the way, not a expert in finances, so just saying. Let's see. This is it. This is it for now. This is it for now, dear friends. And as I said, there was a super chat. There was super chat on Rumble from Blorp, and let me highlight, dear friends, this super chat from Blorp. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your super chat. Attention, $5 donation. And Blorp is commenting, NATO is a useless, obsolete, dangerous bureaucracy that serves no purpose. I agree with you. Completely that NATO is useless organization. It was created against Soviet Union, and there is no Soviet Union no more, right? So why NATO is still there? Its sole purpose was to counter Soviet Union. So Soviet Union is no more. So why NATO is still there? It's a useless organization that is used as a tool, weapon by Western ruling class against their countries left and right. Right from remember Yugoslavia? It was NATO attacked Yugoslavia, isn't it? Yugoslavia never attacked NATO. It was NATO that attacked Serbia. Serbia never attacked Iraq, by the way. NATO that attacked Syria. NATO that attacked Iraq. Iran, by the way. NATO countries that attacked Afghanistan. NATO countries destroy Libya. Correct? And I can continue, by the way. It's totally destructive instrument in hand of Western ruling class, and should be demolished for sure. But no one gonna do this, man. Now I'm gonna do this, unfortunately. So thank you very much, Blorp. Thank you very much for your support. Let me check, dear friends, now. Maybe there was some question through Boosty or something. Let me check Boosty. No, nothing on the Boosty. And so that's it. That's it then, dear friends. Hopefully you like the video. Hopefully you like the video. Hopefully you find it informative and interesting. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. And in case you want to support my work, you can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. You can subscribe to my Patreon page, of course. Choose your level of support there, monthly support from $5 to, it's up to you. And of course, that will be great support too if you subscribe to my Patreon. Link is also on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And yeah, I have a page. You can subscribe to my page on Boosty also. This is it for now, dear friends. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.